Adi, thanks for joining me on Global News in Zuma, Nigeria. The headline says Hamas threatens hostages over Gaza strikes. Airlines hold Israel flights amid Gaza war. Dozens killed, injured in Myanmar camp attack. Biden questioned in classified documents inquiry, and families of the executed urge for change in Singapore. Stay with me for these and more stories. Talking Israel-Gaza war, the Hamas movement has threatened to kill an Israeli hostage every time Israel bombs a Palestinian home without warning, as Israel mobilized some 300,000 reservists and enforced a total blockade of the Gaza Strip, denying the enclave's millions of residents access to food, water, and fuel. On Monday, the warning from Hamas came as the death toll from the armed group's surprise weekend attack climbed to 900 in Israel, and retaliation attacks by Israeli forces on the besieged Gaza Strip killed over 700 people and left over 3,700 wounded. According to reports, residential apartment blocks, hospitals, schools, and a mosque have been among the sites attacked by Israeli jet fighters, artillery, and drones. Hamas spokesperson Abu Abaideh issued the threat on Monday to kill Israelis among the lots held captive by the armed group. He said an Israeli hostage will be killed for every Israeli bombing of a civilian house without caution. Over 100 people were taken captive by Hamas during the deadly cross-border incursion over the weekend, Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen said. As Israeli forces conducted intense retaliatory attacks on Gaza on Monday, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant drew international condemnation by declaring a total blockade of the densely populated and besieged enclave with home to 2.3 million people. Antonio Guterres, United States Nations Secretary General, said he was deeply distressed by the siege announcement and warned that Gaza's already dire humanitarian situation will now only deteriorate exponentially. Guterres also said some 137,000 people were taking shelter with UNRWA, the United Nations agency that provides vital services to Palestinians. Human Rights Watch said Israel's total blockade on the necessities of life for everyday people in Gaza was a war crime. Defense Minister Gallant's statements are abhorrent. Omar Shakir, Israel and Palestine director at Human Rights Watch, said in a statement, depriving the population in an occupied territory of food and electricity is collective punishment, which is a war crime, as is using starvation as a weapon of war. The International Criminal Court should not take note of this court commit a war crime, he said. Shakir also condemned the threat by Hamas to kill hostages, warning that such action was also a war crime. All hostages should be safely released to their families, he said. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his Turkish counterpart Tayyip Recep Erdogan on the diplomatic front called on Hamas and Israel to instantly end violence and protect civilians, the Egyptian president said. Still on Gaza-Israel conflict, leading international airlines have halted or lessened flights to Israel capital Tel Aviv amidst the conflict with Hamas and rising attacks on Gaza. About half of all planned flights at the airport did not operate on Sunday, and a third were cancelled as of Monday evening. American Airlines, Air Canada, Air France, Delta Airlines, Egypt Air, Emirates, Finland's Finnair, Dutch carrier KLM, Germany's Lufthansa, Norwegian Air, Portugal's TAP, Polish carrier LOT, Ryanair and United Airlines were among those suspended or reducing flights to Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport. Russia banned night flights to Israel, and regulators including the U.S. Federal Aviation Authority, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, and Israel's Aviation Authority urged airlines to use caution in Israeli airspace but stopped short of halting flights. Russia said it had restricted flights from going to Israel before 9 o'clock GMT to what it called an unstable political and military situation, and advised airlines to continue to monitor risks during daylight hours. Israel's Civil Aviation Authority said airlines should review current security and threat information and had changed some air traffic routes. The authority noted that interruptions should be anticipated and advised airlines flying to Israel to carry extra fuel as a precaution. British Airways said it was planning to continue operating flights to Israel over the coming days with adjusted departure times. Virgin Atlantic said it will continue to run some flights, but that customers should rebook or request a refund on their tickets. On Sunday and Monday, the United Kingdom's EasyJet paused flights to Tel Aviv, and Hungarian budget carrier Wizz Air cancelled flights to and from Tel Aviv until further notice. Other airlines suspending flights include Aegean, Swiss, and Austrian Airlines. Airlines flying from China, Hong Kong, and South Korea also cancelled flights to Tel Aviv. Hong Kong's major carrier, Cathay Pacific Airways, said that in view of the latest situation in Israel, it was cancelling its Tel Aviv flight scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday. The safety of our passengers and our crew are top priority. We will continue to monitor the situation very closely, the airline said on its website, adding it will provide updates on the site. Israel's national carrier El Al said that it was maintaining its Tel Aviv flights for now in accordance with the instructions of the Israeli security forces, with all flights now departing only from Terminal 3 at Ben Gurion Airport. Now away from Israel, Gaza to Myanmar, thousands of people, including children, have been killed and wounded in a military attack on a camp for internally displaced people, IDPs, in northern Myanmar, close to the border with China. Reports said the camp near the town of Leza in Kachin State was hit late on Monday night. The camp is a few kilometers from the headquarters of the Kachin Independence Army, which is involved in a decades-long conflict with the Myanmar military. No fewer than 32 people were killed, including 13 children, reports said. The Kachin said over 30 people had been killed in the attack. A 3-month-old baby was among the dead, according to reports. Photos on social media showed rescuers retrieving bodies in the darkness and piles of bamboo and other debris. Aung Mui Min, the Human Rights Minister of the National Unity Government, NUG, condemned the attack as a war crime. He said some 56 people had been wounded. The NUG was created by democratically elected politicians removed from office in the coup. The KIA's Colonel Nobu said the armed group was probing what kind of strike had hit the camp. Myanmar was plunged into crisis in February 2021 after the military seized power in a coup stoked a widespread rebellion against its rule. Violence has overwhelmed vast swaths of the country of 53 million people, with the military accused of the indiscriminate use of air raids, artillery shelling, and arson, forcing hundreds of thousands from their homes. Military air raids on a KIA-organized festival in Kachin killed at least 60 people in October last year. Kachin officials and soldiers, musicians, jade mining business owners, and other civilians were among the dead. Now, the White House said Joe Biden, United States President, was questioned voluntarily as part of a probe into the handling of classified documents found at his home and former private office. On Monday, the 80-year-old president was interviewed by special counsel Robert Hur over 2 days, concluding, it said Ian Sams, spokesperson for the White House counsel's office. The U.S. Attorney General appointed a special counsel in January to look into the handling of the secret files, which dated from Biden's time as vice president or the President Barack Obama, and quickly afterwards. Such special counsels are appointed to handle sensitive cases, usually involving political figures or allegations of severe wrongdoing by the government, and have more independence than is usually afforded to federal investigators to decide whether to bring charges. Hur's interviews with Biden suggest the investigation, which has proceeded quietly, may have advanced to its final stages. Biden has said he was surprised by the discovery of classified materials and expected it will eventually be deemed inconsequential. Hur's team previously carried out extensive interviews among Biden's staff, reports said. Ex-President Donald Trump, Biden's probable Republican opponent in next year's presidential election, separately faces trial over the alleged mishandling of classified documents after leaving office. The special counsel in that case, Jack Smith, says Trump allegedly took classified documents to his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida and refused to return them. The case is set to go to trial in May. Trump has denied wrongdoing. Moving to Singapore, family members of prisoners on Singapore's death row are urging the government to bring a quick suspension on executions and implement a review of the city-state's use of death penalty. The relatives of the executed prisoners were among those who delivered a petition to the country's Ministry of Home Affairs on Monday, the eve of World Day against the death penalty. The petition gathered over 1,700 signatures. At least 16 people have been hanged in the Southeast Asian country since 2022, when executions resumed following a lull during the pandemic. It's high time that the government looks into this matter. They are so stubborn. They are to restrict about the death penalty, said Nazira Lajim Haslet, the sister of Nazri bin Lajim, who was executed last year. Nazri was sentenced to death in 2017 after being found guilty of possessing just more than 33 grams, 1.1 ounces of heroin for the purposes of trafficking. He was 64 years old when he was hung last July. Nazri, wanted me to tell the whole world about our Singapore government law, which is not fair at all to him, explains Nazri, who has been a vocal critic of the death penalty since her brother was hung. Activists believe there are presently around 50 prisoners on death row in Singapore, with all but 3 of them jailed for drug-related offences. Singapore's use of the death penalty for drug offences made international headlines earlier this year when 46-year-old Tagaraju Supia was hanged. He was sentenced to death in 2018 for abetting the attempted trafficking of just more than 1 kg, 35 ounces of cannabis. His execution was condemned by the United Nations and British billionaire Richard Branson. Amnesty International says Singapore was one of only 4 countries last year where drug-related executions were confirmed. Singapore's Ministry of Home Affairs says the use of the death penalty for drug offences is an effective deterrent that keeps Singaporeans safe from the harmful effects of drugs. Campaigners disagree, arguing that executing prisoners for drug offences does little to deal with the wider issues feeding the illegal drug trade. Here are more stories. Car crashes into Chinese consulate, driver shot. Police in San Francisco have shot dead the driver of a vehicle that rammed into the Chinese consulate in the city, ending up in the lobby of the visa section. Unverified footage circulating on social media on Monday in the United States showed a vehicle inside the consulate with officers pointing their weapons at the driver's door. A spokesperson for the consulate said the suspect had driven violently into our consulate administration hall, posing a serious threat to the lives of staff and people on site and causing serious damage. Official details of the incident remain sketchy. When officers arrived here on scene, they found the vehicle had come to rest inside the lobby of the Chinese consulate. Officers entered, made contact with the suspect, and an officer-involved shooting occurred, San Francisco Police Department spokesperson Sergeant Catherine Winters said. Officers, paramedics, and medics had tried to save the driver's life, but the person was pronounced dead at the hospital sometime later, Winters said. Police were coordinating with investigators from the U.S. State Department, she said, adding that there's very little information that we can give at this time. The consulate said it wrongly condemns this violent attack and reserves the right to pursue responsibility for the incident. It later announced the visa office will be closed temporarily. San Francisco in Northern California is home to the largest number of ethnic Chinese people. Now to shores of Africa, Morocco faces post-earthquake hurdles. A month has passed since a deadly earthquake hit Morocco, resulting in tragic loss of closely 3,000 lives and widespread destruction of buildings and villages across the Atlas Mountains. As the dust settles, residents are now faced with the difficult task of rebuilding their lives and their communities. In Amismis, a village located 36 miles, 58 kilometers from Marrakech, signs of recovery are gradually emerging amid the debris where once stood homes. The heartbeat of village life is gradually returning, but the blunt reality is sinking in. The journey to recovery will be lengthy and challenging. Among the fears that weigh heavily on the minds of residents are housing, economic revival, and the need for psychological support for their fellow community members. The Moroccan government has outlined plans to provide aid to families for the reconstruction of their destroyed homes. However, it's important to note that this assistance will not extend to renters like Khadija Rajifi, whose residence was among the casualties of the earthquake. Those who did not own homes prior to the disaster will have to rely on a modest stipend of 2,500 dirhams, that 243 US dollars rather, for support, whereas homeowners will receive building funds and the opportunity to return to their properties. While the scars of the earthquake are still visible in Amiz, there are signs of resilience within the community. Some businesses have bravely reopened their doors, with their owners determined to bounce back despite the formidable challenges they face. For instance, Abderrahim Art Bujima recently reopened his corner store, which had been forced to close due to earthquake damage. The store is situated on the ground floor of a three-story building where the exterior walls of the upper floor still bear cracks and require extensive repair. Although some loyal customers have returned, several others have tragically perished or fled the area. Aid Bujama also expresses concern for those customers who had outstanding credit for items purchased before the earthquake and have not yet returned to settle their debts. The path to recovery for Amiz, its residents, is undoubtedly steep, but their determination and resilience serves as beacons of hope amid the aftermath of this devastating natural disaster. Just in a moment, there will be more stories from Nigeria. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. Talking subsidy matters. Kyari says federal government no longer paying petrol subsidy. On Monday, in the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja, the Group Managing Director of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, Malam Mele Kyari, revealed that government is no longer paying subsidy and petroleum motor spirit PMS, popularly known as petrol. He said that contrary to insinuations on social media, the federal government was no longer paying subsidy to any person or group for bringing petroleum products into the country. Further, Kyari stated that the pockets of low queues witnessed across some states recently were due to bad roads that had made transporters to divert the product to other routes. The NNPCL Group Managing Director also said that some of the queues were caused by the preference of customers to patronize filling stations that offered low prices. According to him, there are more than 1.4 billion liters of petrol available for local consumption both on the seas and on land, adding that there is no cause for alarm. Kyari explained that market forces were now playing out and that marketers were competing for the product and how to satisfy their customers as well. He assured marketers of a stable forex and a situation where the prices of the products will align with the prices of other commodities. Now, Tinubu says committed to Nigeria's greatness. Yesterday, the president reaffirmed that he is not unfocused from the task of putting Nigeria on the path of progress. According to him, taking the country to a higher pedestal is his main preoccupation. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made his feelings known in a tweet on his X handle posted, along with his photographs during a meeting with Secretary to the Government of the Federation (SGF) George Akume. The meeting was held at the President's office inside Aso Villa in Abuja. The tweet reads, "All hands must be on deck in the great task of positioning our dear nation for progress." It was learnt that the President held a meeting with the SGF on government business, and the SGF briefed him on the ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs. The government has been working hard to provide a revival pill for the economy as a result of petrol subsidy removal and unification of the Naira to dollar exchange rates. Efforts are also ongoing to make sure the implementation of the agreements reached with labor leaders last week, which staved off the workers' strike threat. The government is committed to the fulfillment of the terms of the agreements within 30 days. The SGF is the coordinator of the affairs of the federal government. The office is also the clearinghouse for the Federal Executive Council (FEC). Besides, appointments to boards of government, departments and agencies are made through the office with the approval of the President. Apart from local matters, the President might have been briefed on the situation of the Israeli-Palestinian war, which broke out at the weekend. This month, the President is scheduled to engage with foreign leaders, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who is expected on a visit for bilateral economic discussions. North Korea has acknowledged the country's political stability under Tinubu's administration. And finally, on the news on health matters, Yobe records 117 deaths 1,796 diphtheria cases. The National Primary Healthcare Development Agency on Monday said 117 children have died following the diphtheria outbreak in Yobe since 2022. NPHCDA added that 1,600 children have recuperated from the disease within the period under review. Faisal Shuaib, the executive director of the agency, revealed this during an inspection visit to the Diphtheria Isolation Center in Potiskum, the epicenter of the disease in the States. He said that 1,796 cases of the disease had been reported in Yobe since November 22nd, adding that the disease was more prevalent among children aged 5 to 14 years. Leading the diphtheria emergency task team to the state, he expressed satisfaction with vaccination conducted in Potiskum and 17 other local government areas of the state. He mentioned that improvement in environmental and personal hygiene would eliminate the disease despite Yobe being second only to Kano State in cases of diphtheria across the country. The NPHCDA boss applauded the state government and development partners for their roles in tackling diphtheria, promising continued support to enable the state to improve healthcare service delivery. However, he emphasized the need for an intensive care unit for effective monitoring, referral, and management of diphtheria cases. To refresh our memories, Hamas threatens hostages over Gaza strikes. Airlines hold Israel flights amidst Gaza war. Dozens killed, injured in Myanmar camp attack. Biden questioned in classified documents inquiry, and families of the executed urge for change in Singapore. That's all on the news from all the crew members. Have a blessed day.